All right, welcome everyone to Behind the Business, where we bring you real stories from CEOs and business owners on what building something real actually looks like, the decisions, the pressure, and what would they do differently. Today's guest is Daniel McCaulley. Dan is the founder of Ultimus Engineering. Ultimus is a faith-based Texan firm delivering 100% American-made MEP aquatics and structural engineering services. Their mission: creating engineering solutions to build better communities. This person's built something real, and I'm super pumped to have this conversation. Dan, welcome to the show. Really glad to have you here.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Jake.
All right, so let's start from the beginning. Tell me a little bit about your story. How'd you get into what you do, and what does your company actually do?
Sure. So if you want the beginning, let's go way back to the beginning. I'll start this story roughly 30 years ago, even. I was one of those kids that my mom couldn't have me out of the house enough. If there was an application for it, my name was on it. I remember vividly changing uniforms in the back of her Ford Taurus, going from a football game to a soccer game to a baseball game, all in one day as a little kid.
Yep.
So all that to frame the conversation around sports was a very important part of my upbringing and the competitive nature of virtually everything. And 30 years ago, this was before the days of participation trophies for everyone. And if you wanted to win, you had to earn it. And that was how I was brought up. So let's go win something, right? And so
Mhm.
that athletic career took me through middle school and high school and to college. And I knew I was going to go to college to play football, but I didn't know what I wanted to study. So in the spirit of competition, I thought, well, hey, let's just pick the most difficult thing I can think of and let's
Mhm.
go study mechanical engineering. So I did that, graduated with a degree in mechanical engineering, ended up at a company, Halliburton, so oil and gas services company, as
Yep.
a manufacturing engineer. And that was really my first entrance into the world of engineering. Very
Mhm.
large organization, 40,000 employees, something like that. And one
Mhm.
of the things I discovered was that even a company that large still had a significant amount of outsourcing that they did within their engineering teams. They had a team
Yep.
overseas they outsourced to. And there's pros and cons to that. We can certainly dive in deeper to the pros and cons of outsourcing if you want to in a little bit. But I found it personally difficult to navigate that, to work with people who maybe thought about business practices and you know not necessarily ethics, but just the way that things are done and the efficiencies and how things should be handled. I found myself managing other people that I'm 1 year out of school. Like, why should I be responsible for someone else's engineering? But
Yep.
as the stateside engineer, full-time employee, I ultimately was. So I started having some conversations with some other employees, and at the time it was more of a joke that we said, hey, well, if Halliburton's going to outsource, why don't we just go start our own engineering company and they can outsource to
Mhm.
us?
Mhm.
And at the time, it was more kind of a joke. But fast forward 12 years, 13 years after that, I found myself in a position. I'd left Halliburton, went to go work for another oil and gas company,
Yep.
and then ultimately ended up working for a general manufacturing company in the construction space, which is sort of the segue into how we ended up with Ultimus.
Mhm.
But over the years, what I really discovered additionally was that engineers typically aren't great communicators.
Mhm.
They don't necessarily focus on relationships, and they're very technically focused in their craft.
Yep.
And so the idea was, or the pain point that I saw across a lot of industries, because everything's
Mhm.
engineered, right? It doesn't matter if it's buildings or oil and gas or tennis shoes or macaroons, everything is engineered.
Yep.
And so we're all required to deal, quote unquote, with these technical people. Well, these technical people are so focused in their craft that they don't take time to step back and look at the holistic view. Like, hey, this is
Mhm.
another human being. How do we have
Mhm.
better communication? How do we
Yep.
relay my technical expertise in a way that doesn't sound like I'm just coming off as kind of a jerk?
Yep.
I've heard a lot of engineers respond to the comment of, well, I'm a professional engineer and this is my answer, so accept it or don't.
Mhm.
And while there may be some merit to that, like that's not the way we have to be. So
Mhm.
all of that experience and all of that information combined led me to, well, what's the next hard thing? What's the next challenge? What's the next thing that
Mhm.
I can do that somebody else either can't or won't?
Yep.
And what that resulted in was, let's start a company that is technically focused, that is engineering services provider. Because again, everybody needs engineering. It's a $250 billion a year industry. There's enough
Yep.
out there to go get a piece of. 1% of 1%, I'll let you do that math. That's pretty
Mhm.
decent.
Hmm.
And let's do it in a way that solves a problem. Let's do it in a way
Yep.
that resolves a pain point. You have to
Yep.
have a value prop. You have to have a differentiation. You can walk down the street and before you got tired, probably walk into two engineering firms. But let's do it in a way where we focus on communication, we focus on building relationships. And so we do it in a way that sets us apart from just another person with a professional engineering license.
Hmm.
So that's the backstory. In a nutshell, what we do today is we offer that value add of
Yep.
high levels of communication, high levels of responsiveness, building relationships with our clients. And we serve the construction industry in the three disciplines of MEP, which is HVAC, electrical, and plumbing design,
Hmm.
aquatics, which is essentially the construction documents from everything from koi ponds to water parks, and then
Yep.
the structural engineering, which is focused on the foundation and framing members of buildings.
Got it. Got it. And then that construction experience you were telling me about before, that's the one that you kind of like learned a lot about in the construction industry, and you're just taking everything you learned from that business or from when you were working there into what you're doing right now.
That was a lot of it. So the company that I worked for was a manufacturer of building wire. So
Yep.
all the small wires that hook up your light switches to ceiling fans, up to the
Yep.
large industrial cable that serves power plants and oil and gas refineries. I got a really deep exposure to more so the electrical contractor side, again, as a provider
Okay.
of wire and cable. But I spent a lot of time on job sites and I started to appreciate and understand the pain points of what contractors go through. And even with that organization, I was still a technical representative. Again, I was just selling building wire,
Yep.
but still being in a client facing role, but someone who had to talk with the project superintendent, the
Hmm.
project owner, the guys pulling the wire,
Hmm.
their sales team, our sales team, the middleman who's the electrical distributor,
Hmm.
really honing a craft into how do we provide a technical resource. And at that point was a commoditized product, but a technical resource that still has to communicate with all these different constituents. And I found a really good niche in myself that I had the ability to do that. So I thought, well,
Hmm.
why not just take this experience and broaden the scope? Let's serve the greater construction community, but let's
Hmm.
do it in a way that I saw over the 5 years that I spent with that company. Let's do it in a way that I've seen be immensely valuable.
Yep.
And let's try
The
to just
value
grow that and
differentiator
spread
that
that
you're bringing
word.
up.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep. No, I love that. I love that. That's cool. So when you did start the Ultimus engineering, uh, in the early days, what did the early days look like?
Yeah, it's funny you asked. So the early days were not construction focused. And I think this is a
Okay.
really cool pivot of how organizations have to stay flexible.
Yep.
When I decided to start the company, my first intent wasn't even to actually serve the construction space that we're in today. I was going to
Yep.
revert back to my roots of industrial product design, manufacturing engineering, even maybe some consumer products.
Yep.
Um, that's because that's what I personally knew the most.
Yep.
And I was doing that for probably 6 months, 8 months, something like that. And it sure was a grind. It was hard to
Hmm.
find clients. It was hard to break into the big clients like Halliburton because they're obviously very
Yep.
well situated with their engineering partners. It
Yep.
was really easy to find, let's say, the everyday consumer, somebody wants to go on Shark Tank, right? But they need a product developed. It was really
Hmm.
easy to find those people, but those people don't have a lot of money. And I'm like,
Yep.
well, I'm
Yep.
trying to put food on the table. So how do we
Yep.
balance this? And it was roughly, like I said, 6 or 8 months in that I got a call from a previous vice president back from my old oil and gas days who had left oil and gas and started his own general construction company, residential
Yep.
GC. And he was telling me that he was following me on social media and saw that I had started my own company and said, hey, I don't know if you do this, but I have this home remodel that I'm looking at, and I need a structural engineer to evaluate a load bearing wall.
Okay.
Can you help or do you know anyone? And I said, you know what? Yeah, I know a guy that can help. So I called a buddy of mine who was a structural engineer, kind of doing his own thing, working out of his living room, had his own company for a number of years. And I
Yep.
said, hey, man, what would you charge me to like basically subcontract you through this and be the engineer, help this guy out? And he goes, man, I'll do it for you. Call it $1,200. So I was like, okay, well, how about this? So I called the GC back and I said, hey, man, we'll do this for you for $1,500. And he said, great. And I said, great. And it's the easiest $300 I ever made. And I was like, well, that was kind of cool. And didn't really think a whole lot of it. It was nice to help out an old friend. Well, then he
Yep.
calls me back a few weeks later with another very similar project. And I make another easy 300, $500. And I was
Hmm.
like, just kind of starting to think like, maybe there's something here.
Hmm.
And then something very similar happened. So that was a structural engineering project. And then something else
Yeah,
very
yeah.
similar happened on the MEP side. Someone just typed in engineer near me in Google, didn't look at what we did at all, because my website at the time was all focused on heavy industrial product design.
Yep.
But they called and they asked, like, hey, I've got this little taco shop that I'm trying to open up a new location in a local mall. Can you
Hmm.
guys provide this thing called MEP? Yeah, I know a guy. Let me. So I did something very similar, and then
Hmm.
I'm really kind of sitting back and thinking. I'm talking with my business consultant, and it's like these projects are falling in our lap, and it seems like no one knows
Hmm.
of a good engineer. So maybe we throw a couple marketing dollars and just see what we can bring in.
Hmm.
And it only took maybe another 6 months after that that I was like, you know what? This industrial product design stuff is not coming easily. This
Hmm.
construction stuff, structural and MEP, I
Hmm.
can't keep up with. Maybe
Hmm.
we pivot, focus on this. I
Yeah.
start to learn more about, again, my background's mechanical, so I and oil and gas, so I understood plumbing. Plumbing was easy.
Yep.
HVAC, I took all those classes. I am a licensed professional mechanical engineer, so that I understood. The
Hmm.
electrical aspect, I had enough appreciation for, maybe not the true electrical design, but I knew how to understand what was being needed on a project and help articulate that to maybe an engineer. And then the structural stuff, I just had to find really smart people to help me out along the way. But essentially, that was a major pivot point for us. Call it roughly a year and a half in, where I decide, look, if this company is going to be successful, I'm not going to do it chasing oil and gas and heavy industrial product design. I need to focus on this other much seemingly larger market, higher need. Maybe the projects are smaller, depending. Um,
Yep.
but I'm going to be able to help a lot more people. And so that was a pivot
Hmm.
that we went through. It wasn't a hard stop, but it happened pretty quickly. And I kind of planted my foot in the ground and um, made a turn, and that's where we've been. And then now we're coming up a couple days shy of our fifth year anniversary and haven't looked back.
Yeah, it's that's usually how it works. I mean, a lot when you first start off, it's like you're going general and it's the hardest thing to find work. But then when you find the problems and the areas in the market where you can best serve and over time and as you're going through it day by day, like and you actually find that it's so much more gratifying. It's so easy, so much easier to get clients too. So that totally makes sense.
Yeah, and the cool thing too was when I first started, the idea was I was just going to work for myself. I was
Yep.
going to, have a little home office and just work from home and do enough really just to put food on the table and provide for my family. And
Hmm.
that's what I'm doing today. But what I've realized now is that I can help more people. I don't just have to help
Hmm.
myself. I can provide employment
Yep.
opportunities for other engineers who want more, who want to be a part of something bigger.
Yep.
And our mission statement has changed over time. And you
Yep.
you read it in the intro there, and thank you for that. It's
Hmm.
we create engineering solutions to build better communities. Well, that
Hmm.
communities aren't just our clients, but it's our employees, right? They're part of our
Hmm.
community.
Hmm.
So, the engineering solutions that we're creating, yes,
Oh,
it's to
nice.
to design these buildings, but we're
Yep.
giving, I like to consider myself, I'm
Giving
giving
back.
back. I'm giving employment opportunities to the greater community. I'm giving them benefits and opportunities for these engineers to do something more than quote unquote just be an engineer, to be stuck in a cubicle, to not be client facing. Some engineers don't want that, but the engineers we hire people that want to do that, that want to grow, that want to have more exposure than just to be a technical resource.
Hmm.
And I think that's a cool way to think about what we do too, is it's not just at the end of the day, we provided a really cool design for an architect or a builder to go build an office building. But
Hmm.
it's all the other pieces and people that it touches along the way.
Yep. Yep. So then, so then you built Ultimus Engineering, and so how long you been with Ultimus Engineering now?
It'll be, I think our date is the 16th. So we're just a couple days short of our fifth year anniversary. So we started in
Wow.
2021, April of 2021. Yeah. So we're almost just a couple days shy of having a big party.
Well, happy early birthday with
Thank you.
Ultimus and stuff.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, yeah, no, Dan, like I said before, I don't want to just talk about business, but, I did want to bring up, the business portion off the bat so all the guests know exactly what you're doing or what you're doing with your life. And so, now I just want to kind of talk about your story a little bit more and like, what kind of like grounds you. So, when things get hard and when you're building Ultimus and, or just in your life in general, what kind of like grounds you? Like when things get hard and, the answers aren't obvious, what keeps you going?
Yeah. What keeps me going is kind of a similar conversation to how do I prioritize my day to make sure I'm doing the right things.
Hmm.
And I do that, and it's really a one, two, three. It's my faith, it's my family, and then it's the work, and everything
Yep.
else comes after that. And those things
Hmm.
build on each other. So when things get hard, I don't have answers. Like I'm in the driver's seat, but there's a co-pilot here with me, right? And so I'm not really the one driving. I can choose how to react to certain situations. But at the end of the day, and at the beginning of the day, I'm always looking up, and that is really the guidance behind what I do. And then who I'm doing it for here Earthside is my family. It's my
Hmm.
wonderful wife. It's my two beautiful boys. I just brought in my second son December 23rd of this past year, so he's coming up on 3.5 months.
Oh, wow.
And
Congratulations, by the way.
yeah, thank you. And so being able to do this for them, about a year and a half ago, my wife was able to stop working. Well, stop working is relative. She's a full-time mom now, so arguably she's working more. But being able
Hmm.
to provide that for her, just to be at home with the boys more often. I split my time between in the office, job sites, client meetings. I do still work out of the home office as much as I
Yep.
can. And it's
Hmm.
just really cool to be able to, hey, yeah, I've had a stressful moment. There's an angry email. There's a project deadline that's really pushing. You know what? I'm going to step back. I'm going to go chase my son around the house. We're going to just soak in what really matters. It's not,
Hmm.
I mean, the company matters. The company's providing to
Of
them,
course. Of
but we're
course.
doing it for them.
Yep.
And so that's been a really cool piece. I'm very blessed to be able to provide that for my wife, so she's not having to work. I put air quotes
Hmm.
around that anymore. And the end goal is that I am available more for them as my boys continue to grow up, just not having to be 60 hours in an office somewhere away from them. And
Yep.
especially while they're so young, right? And I think about my last corporate position.
Yep.
I was in the office by 7:45, but it was a 30-minute drive. So I was leaving
Hmm.
between 7 and 7:15 every morning.
Yep.
If the day actually shuts down what's supposed to at 5:15, 45-minute drive home, I'm home by 6. Well,
Hmm.
bedtime's 7. Well, they get up at 7. So I get 15 minutes in the morning, but I'm still trying to get ready. And then at home, it's like, well, you got to eat dinner. So then you're not really hanging out. I was getting like 3 or 4 hours a week, or would have been 3 or 4 hours a week with my family. A week, 3 or 4 hours. And it's like,
For how long was
it's,
that?
well, I guess so. This was probably the first year, but my son wasn't born till after I had started the company. But I guess I'm just thinking in my mind, like, what's the alternative, right?
Yep.
If my alternative is I work a quote unquote normal corporate job, that would be the standard.
Yep.
And so that's just very refreshing to me. Even the days where they're long days, or the days when I am home, I spend more time because I'm either not commuting or my office is much closer now. Um, but I go back to work maybe at night after the kids go to bed, and I can do that. But again, because it's more for us, right? And so the
Hmm.
grounding aspect of it is, on the days that are long, there's a reason why, and it's that I am
Hmm.
around more. I'm more available,
Hmm.
and I can be more flexible with my schedule. I still
Hmm.
have to get stuff done, and there are still a lot of late nights because even though we're coming up on 5 years old, I'm still doing a lot of extra things. I'm wearing a lot of hats. I don't have a full-time legal team and a full-time marketing team, so there are lots of hats that I'm wearing throughout the day as the business owner.
Yep.
Um, but there's a much deeper purpose than just collect a paycheck.
Hmm.
And so it's the faith aspect is kind of the
And you're
driving
building
piece of
something
it.
too.
And
Yep.
I'm building something. And again, it's really cool to be able to um, you know, provide for my employees. I've got one employee who just had a kid about a month ago, and I've got another one with one on the way. I think he's due in June. So it's cool to be able to see their families grow and what it means to them to have secure employment and enjoyment in what they do to either again be home with their families. We do have kind of a hybrid work model, so people can be at home with their families more. They're not having to commute, And it's
That's cool.
that's another interesting piece. We can talk about that too, business
Hmm.
philosophy on how to manage remote work. But yeah, that's really what I would say grounds me is just it's the family aspect. It's who am I doing it for, and the purpose of really what this is all about.
Love it. So wait, now you got me curious. How do you manage remote work?
Yeah, it's 5 years ago when this whole thing called COVID happened,
Hmm.
everybody was basically remote. We had to, right? Unless you were mission
Hmm.
critical operation.
Yep.
And then over the years, there have been a lot of people that have gone back to a more in-person environment or at the
Yep.
very least hybrid. The way I look at it is remote work is a privilege. It is a benefit. It is not a right. Um, a lot of especially the new grads who are coming into the workforce for the first time, they spent
Hmm.
4 years in college of remote. Some of them did. Um, and it's just kind of an expectation that, well, I don't have to be in the office.
Hmm.
Well, that can be true if you prove yourself to be efficient and effective outside of the office.
Hmm.
Some people, I don't want to say need supervision, but some people need to be motivated outside of their own intrinsic abilities.
Hmm.
Some people don't. Some people sit down, they work, they crush it. A lot of people inherently end up working more working from home just
Yep.
because they've got their laptop there. And I'm not saying that we as business owners should take advantage of that, but we should realize that some people are better suited for that than others. If you're an employee that is not self-motivated, if having other people around you working is like, okay, well, if someone else is working next to me, I guess I should be working. It's
Hmm.
very easy to get distracted by
Yep.
the dog, the laundry. Well, I've got to have the landscaper come over and fix my sprinkler head.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
nice to be able to do that. But if that's a distraction, then we can't have that because we are a
Yep.
business. We have to
Yep.
get stuff done. We have clients that are waiting on us. We have people, we have families waiting on our engineering to be done so they can move into that apartment complex. Think
Yep.
about that, right? So that's the
Yep.
community aspect of it.
Yep.
So when employees, and not this isn't just us, this is advice for all business owners.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
When
Yeah.
when you have employees that don't necessarily execute whatever their job position requires, and
Hmm.
they're in a remote environment, that's not a right. That is a privilege. That is a benefit.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think that I think it should be considered as such, as part of a compensation
Yep.
package. Like, right, if you want to work from home, you're not commuting, you're not spending time, you're not putting miles on your car, you're not spending gas. It's a luxury to be able to work from your sweatpants if you need to. You shouldn't also expect automatically an extra 10 or 15% to your base salary.
Hmm.
It is an extra benefit. Now, if your
Hmm.
work requires you to be in the office, you're putting miles on your car, you're paying gas, you've got to pay a dry cleaner, all this other stuff, then yeah, it's certainly reasonable that you should be baseline compensated for that.
Hmm.
But I am a very firm believer that remote work, hybrid work, that it is absolutely a privilege and a benefit, and it should not be considered a default or a given or an expectation. I just think that everybody works differently, and you have to put people in positions where they are going to be most successful. And if that's
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
office, if that's what's best for the company, then it is what it is. And if that's not a good
Yep.
fit, then it's not a good fit. But that's that's been my kind of take from the last five
Yep.
years of assessing where people are at. And we interview people. I've got several open positions right now. And that's a topic that comes up very early. It's like, look,
Hmm.
I'll give you as much leash as you would like and prove that you behave on a long leash. I don't want to say
Hmm.
behave, it sounds like it's a dog, but prove that you can
They got to
execute.
learn, they got to know how to work first. If they, like
Right.
you said, if they're back
Yeah.
at home and they're remote work, things are going to be able to take their attention. It's going to be hard. If they don't know how to focus and get their
Hmm.
work done, then right now they probably just need to go into office and they need to learn how to work and be able to do that. Or maybe, like you said, maybe they're just better off working at work in the office setting regardless.
Yep, that's right. And it's very much a prove it situation. Trust but
Yep.
verify, right?
Yep.
So I'll
Trust but
trust you.
verify.
If you execute, I'll leave you alone.
Hmm.
I will be the most easygoing, manager, supervisor, boss, whatever label you want to put on it. If you take care of your business, we will have so much fun. You will not
Mhm.
find a more easygoing, flexible, allowable boss, quote unquote. I don't even really like that word, but if you don't, we're going to have a focused conversation and we're going to put you in a position where you can be successful. And that's kind of my stance on it. People get that. And I'm very transparent with that up front.
Mhm.
I will be, we will have as much fun as you prove that you can have,
Yep.
essentially, is kind of the way that I word it.
So tell me about just to kind of shift over on a different topic right now. Tell me about like what you do for on the physical side of things. Like do you because I know you're going to the work, you're hanging out with your family, you have your faith. Do you keep time for, like manage your time to do physical tasks like, walking, going to the gym? Like what are you doing for physical activity?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I mentioned early on, the ingrainment of being competitive, playing sports, I have to move. I
Hmm.
can't just sit in front of a computer and uh, all day and then spend time with family and then go sit in front of a TV at night.
Yep.
I've got to move my body. And so that's just been ingrained in me from day one. So I do. I find time to move.
Hmm.
I make a rule. If I get up and go to the bathroom, coming back, I'm doing 10 push-ups.
Hmm.
Anybody can take 7 seconds and do 10 push-ups. Like
Hmm.
a project can wait 7 seconds. An email, a phone call can wait 7 seconds.
Hmm.
And it's just, am I going to get shredded doing 30 push-ups a day? No, but it's just the mental stimulation of it. It's just
Yeah.
doing it. Your brain switches, it fires off endorphins. It helps you kind of set some things up. So there's little things like that that maybe not move the needle in total physical fitness, but it's a
Yep.
mindset. And then the weekends are probably my biggest days for significant workouts, right? Obviously not
Hmm.
working. My almost 4-year-old now, he's starting to be like, Dad, are you working out today? Sure am, buddy. Like, let's go do it. And he's got his little plastic weights and his PVC pipe, and we're starting
Yep.
to get him involved. And so then it's family time, but it's also fitness time. And I
Hmm.
let him pick the music. He's really found a love of Toddler Rave. So any kids out there or parents with young kids, do a little Google search for Rave, and it's Wheels on the Bus, but it's like the EDM version, and it's kind of cool. So we let him do that, pick some music sometimes for the workout, and it just helps get him involved. And yeah, so that's a big piece of it because I know that if I'm not taking care of my physical self, I mean, the spiritual part is great. The emotional
Hmm.
part is great. That's the family time, but the physical part is also important.
Hmm.
If you don't take care of that, then great, I've provided for my family. But if I'm not around to see the fruits of that or to physically be there for them, then I'm not really doing them a complete justice. So yeah, it's my physical focus has maybe diminished than it was 10 years ago,
Hmm.
pre-marriage, pre-kid. I was working out. I was still doing 2 days 10 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yep.
So that's changed a little bit, and it is trying to involve the family now with the 3 month old. Like my wife
Hmm.
will strap him to her, and she'll do some body weight squats holding the
Hmm.
3 month old. And so we try to make a fun family affair out of it too.
What I'm hearing from you too is, and I also get on a lot of other interviews or have been getting on a lot of interviews with other business owners, and what I'm hearing differently from you is you're kind of, integrating all the four like the different pillars of life, like faith, fitness, and family all in one in a sense. I feel like if I'm getting it right, whereas like, you're hanging out with your children or like your son, and you're also working out with them at the same time. Like you're hitting multiple things. And that's just I always preach that because, if you're having an integrated life and you integrate every core area of your life, you're a lot more productive. You can get a lot more done. You're a lot more happier and fulfilled.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good point. And one thing I do, I just want to make clear that it's not that I'm trying to multitask because I don't want to
oh yeah,
diminish
no.
any of that
Yep.
time.
Yep.
Because as you were saying that, I was like, I agree. I don't want someone out there listening to say like, well, you should spend time with your family, or you should work out, or you should
Yep.
do this. Like, go all in on one thing. There is value in that, and so I
Hmm.
do want to be clear that I'm not trying to
Yep.
multitask so much that I'm not getting as much out of it as I could. We do have strictly just play family time, right? It's
Yep.
we're going to the park. I'm not trying to work out at the park, doing pull-ups on the
Yeah,
swing while my
that's not
son's going
black or
down the
white. Yep.
slide.
Yep.
It's we have a workout time. And there are times where I'm like, hey, buddy, I need to crush this bike ride. So I'm going to get on the
Hmm.
Peloton. I'm going to put on my headphones, go color, go hang out with mama. Maybe mom goes for a walk with the boys. And I'm like, I'm going to spend 45 minutes and I'm going to listen to music that's maybe not appropriate for a 3-year-old. And
Yep.
I'm going to crush this bike ride because I need that. I have to have my own time to reset because it is stressfully draining. There's positive stress and negative stress, but
Hmm.
being on from a family as a dad is draining. And I do need time to just sit and be just me. Like you have to take time for yourself, truly just
Hmm.
yourself. Because if everything is always about everybody else, you can get burned out. There are some people that do that better than others, but you have to know for yourself, hey, look, if I need 45 minutes for me or an hour for me, then I need that. And my wife's the same way. She's like, hey, I need a minute. Like, I need you to go for a walk with the kids. Or she's
Hmm.
like, I can take the newborn, but I need a little bit of quiet. And so I'll take my
Hmm.
son and we'll go to Lowe's. He loves Lowe's. He loves Target.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we'll go do that just to get out of the house to give mom a few minutes while maybe
Hmm.
the baby's sleeping and
Hmm.
she wants to read a book or heaven forbid someone takes time to doom scroll. I know people are, oh, don't doom scroll. It's like, look, there's some endorphins that are released during that. If you're not doom scrolling, you're doing something else that's a time waste, but switching off your brain is really important. And so
Hmm.
we do take time for that. And it's hard. There are days where we don't do it right. I mean,
Hmm.
I'll be completely honest, where this is not oh my gosh, like it sounds like he's got everything under control. Absolutely not.
Hmm.
There are certainly days where we think about it the next day or at the end of the day, it's like, man, we could have done this differently. So you're never going to be perfect. It's all in flux. It's all
Yep.
gray. It's just you do the best you can, do the best with what you got, and if there's a learning opportunity, try to do better next time. And you don't always even do that either.
How do you manage that when, like manage your time in a sense and not always be, kind of always the brain's always on and every day. Like do you have like do you time block your time or your calendar or like is there like a certain time that when you're just like, okay, enough's enough. I'm hanging out with family or you're going to work out or something?
Yeah, there's a few of those things that we do. I do have a time block. Generally, it's like the last 2 or 3 hours of every day
Hmm.
where I don't schedule meetings. I try not to take phone calls unless it's absolutely necessary, and I
Hmm.
do a lot of email cleanup. Right, because there's
Hmm.
emails come in during the day, and
Like your
I'm in
admin
other
work?
stuff. It's kind of admin work.
Yep.
It's some project
Yep.
management, a few things. So I don't like 100 emails, 100 unread emails in my inbox when I'm trying to step away from the computer because
Hmm.
when I'm trying to turn my brain off or go into
Hard.
family mode,
Yep.
it's hard because I'm thinking about that last email that came through at 3 o'clock that I didn't get to, that someone was asking for a project update. But especially on days where I am working from home, 5 o'clock is a hard cutoff for me. I will step
Hmm.
away. I will spend the next 2.5 hours with my family. We make dinner, we play, we do bedtime routine stuff. Usually my son goes to bed around 7:30. And then at that point, once he's in bed, if I need to go back to the computer for some amount of time, then I will. But I do have those time blocks. And so the family time is prioritized over work. So that 2 hours, 2.5 hours in the evening, I don't answer phone calls. My phone stays in the home office. So I
Hmm.
can't even see if another email comes through or another
Hmm.
business phone call. It's like, look, anything between 5 and 7:30, probably nothing really that significant is going to happen. It's nothing
Hmm.
significant enough that I can't pick up at 7:30 or 8, right? So it's
Hmm.
like I just do. I shut it off. And I have to be purposeful about that because if I forget and I bring my phone out, it's on the table, it's going to ring. I'm going to get a
Hmm.
text message. I'm going to get an email between 5 and
Hmm.
7:30. But if I don't see it, it's sort of out of sight, out of mind. And then I just address it when I go back to it later if I need to.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
that time block is important. And then and then the weekends, again, unless it's just something super mission critical, I try to not work. But again, as a business owner, we're still relatively new, still relatively small organization.
Hmm.
There's going to be time for that, but it's not
Yep.
at 2 o'clock on a Saturday. It's
Hmm.
again after bedtime on Saturday. It's 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And I can answer emails sitting on the couch. So it's like, I feel like if my wife wants to watch a show or she's gonna do whatever, or again, our 4-month old almost is still, obviously not sleeping between 7 and 7.
Yep.
So I can sit on the couch with her. We're in proximity. Maybe I'm firing off a couple of emails. We have some mindless TV up, whatever.
Hmm.
So trying to do a little bit of multitasking in that way. But she has given me a lot of grace over the years, and I'm very blessed to have her. She understands what the mission is. She understands that this is a means to an end, and we're still
Hmm.
very much in the grind as
Hmm. Of
a relatively young
course.
organization.
Of course.
But she gets that. So yeah, but then on the weekends, yeah, we have a schedule. It's roughly, we get up, we hang out, maybe we go to the park, we do an activity, have lunch, 2-ish, 3-ish, sometime kind
Hmm.
of depending on, if someone needs a nap. That's kind of the early afternoon workout time on Saturdays. And then we roll into the evening if we want to go hang out with friends, or we've got a lot of good families in the neighborhood we hang out with.
Hmm.
Time blocking Sunday morning is always church for us. Well, it's just, it's not something comes up, but we head to church about 10 o'clock. We're back
Hmm.
around 12:31. Again, we have lunch. Maybe there's an afternoon Sunday workout. And then Sunday evening, we usually try to keep Sundays for family time. It's kind of
Yep.
consider it kind of the holy day for us.
Hmm.
We try not to schedule events, other things going on. My mom lives local. My wife's parents are up in upstate New York, but maybe we grab brunch with my mom or something after church,
Hmm.
just try to keep family stuff.
Family time. Yeah.
Yeah, some family time. So that's how we loosely time block. But again, knowing with two kids, things are always going to be
Things are
flexible.
always in
Yeah,
flex.
yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely.
All right. Let's go back to Ultimus Engineering. So, by the way, I really like the mission where you're helping communities. So, for Ultimus Engineering, where are you taking this thing? Like, what's the big, overarching vision? Obviously, you're building it for your family and for the community, and you want to build it into something big, but like, where are you taking this thing?
We are going to take as much market share. We're going to help as many people. We're going to find as many clients as we can while still keeping the core focus of our culture on being communicative, being relationship driven,
Yep.
and helping people coordinate and communicate and work with engineers in a way that is not just transactional.
Hmm.
So we will go as far as we can until I have found a way to hire every engineer with that mindset.
Hmm.
And I say that kind of jokingly, but there is a finite amount of talent out there that has the ability to work in that environment. A
Hmm.
lot of engineers, a lot of professional engineers, candidly don't would in a perfect world would prefer not to communicate with clients. They're like,
Hmm.
look, I'm really good at what I do. Give me what I need to do my work and get out of my way. I
Hmm.
respect that. I honestly, I really, really do.
Hmm.
What we're trying to build, though, is technical competency, but doing it in a way where if an architect or a general contractor has a question, they don't
Hmm.
have to call the business development manager to pass that information along to the engineer to then run it back up the chain. They don't have to call the project manager to ask questions because generally that project manager isn't going to know why the HVAC was sized that way. They have to go
Hmm.
back to the project engineer, get the calculations. Maybe it's a couple days anyway, just kind of that up and down the line of command, that architect should feel comfortable picking up the phone, calling
Hmm.
the engineer of record directly. They've got either their business line or their cell phone in a lot of instances, direct email correspondence.
Hmm.
And then when that engineer picks up the phone, it's, hey, Jason, hey, man, great to hear you. I'm not saying you've got to be everyone's best friend and
Hmm.
college, drinking buddy, but be personable enough where that architect enjoys picking up the phone and
Hmm.
calling that engineer. A lot of our engineers,
Hmm.
they've established such good relationships with our clients that some of the clients send them requests for quotes.
Hmm.
And they're like, well, okay, hold on now. I'll help you
Yeah,
with
right.
engineering, but this does need to go through the sales channels. But they just
Yep.
forget, right? Because it is all so fluid with you can call anybody. We prefer you to call the engineer, and they're just so used to contacting their engineer that's helped them with the last dozen projects that, hey, we've
Hmm.
got another one. Do you guys want this one too? Well, yeah, looking forward to it, but let me get with the sales guys to actually give you the quote.
Hmm.
So all that to say, that's the culture, and that's really cool when that happens because when that's happening, the our clients get it and they see
Hmm.
it and they love it. So I don't know what that is. I mentioned earlier the 1% of 1%. That's kind of the goal. Just because that was sort of the number going into it from day one. Um, and then anything more than that is, again, my family doesn't need anything else at this point. It's not financial goals.
Hmm.
Like I said, we're blessed enough to retire my wife and got the kids at home, and we don't need anything. We just got
Hmm.
this sweet new ride. My wife got a minivan, so we are just on cloud nine right now.
Hmm.
I say
What
that sort of
make?
in a joke. I'm sorry.
What make? Like
Honda
Honda,
Odyssey. Yep,
Honda
we got the
Odyssey.
Odyssey
Oh
because
yeah, I
it's
used to
got the
sell
middle
those.
rows that slides back and
Yep.
forth. And I tell you what, I can stand up and buckle in a child in a car seat. I am absolutely team minivan. But I say that sort of in a joking way, like, look, we don't need anything else. So this is
Mhm.
not financial gain
Big
for
Honda
us.
fan, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. My my wife got the minivan. I took her RAV4, so had to change over to the Toyota. But my car prior to that, I was driving an Acura for 13 years. So I'm definitely support the Honda family. But yeah, so like I said, the growing the company is how can we continue to allow engineers to do more? How can we staff engineers that want more out of life? And I think that's cool. The more people can help. I've always had a heart for mentorship. I've mentored. So I was in a fraternity in college. Sigma Phi
Hmm.
Epsilon is my college fraternity. And then when I
Hmm.
graduated, I joined a mentorship program where, as a recent college grad, and even up till the last probably a couple years, I've I've mentored SIGEPs still in college,
Hmm.
talking about what
Hmm.
are good options for careers? How do we resume review? How do we interview prep? How do we internship prep? So just that giving back and helping other people grow and fulfill not only the best versions of themselves, but how can they be excited about whatever it is they're doing? That's the really cool part for me for being able to hire engineers who want more than quote unquote just being an engineer. So that's the growth. That's what we're trying to do is just do that as big as we can for as many people that want to do a little bit more.
Nice, nice. Okay. And you've been with Ultimus Engineering for 5 years now, been building it for 5 years. One big question I love to ask is, looking back, you know, what would you like looking back in these last 5 years with Ultimus Engineering, what would you have done differently if you were starting over?
That's a good question. I think there's a couple things. So the first couple engineers I tried to hire, um, I would have done a little bit more diligence. Like I mentioned, the remote work aspect of it, I would have been more clear on expectations.
Hmm. Okay.
We've had two employees throughout the 5 years that haven't worked out just
Hmm.
from misalignment on performance expectations.
Hmm.
And after those two employees, we've done a lot better job about being more transparent, making sure
Hmm.
everyone understood the expectations up front. And
Hmm.
that's a big piece of it is I don't like parting ways with employees. That's been
Yeah.
a very clean track record of mine for management over the years of people leaving my teams, my organizations, companies I've worked for, had a really clean record over the years. And that's very important to me is that people don't feel either misinformed or um, just not in alignment with what expectations are. So
Hmm.
that's something that I would have done, I would do differently going back is just being
More clear.
more clear about what these expectations are
Yep.
for this remote work environment.
Okay.
Um, the other aspect is I I probably would have brought in um, I would say more help from the beginning rather than trying to just do it myself. And again, I did
Yep.
that probably 8 months in, but I think
Hmm.
day one, having a business coach or business consultant to help me through all those early day hurdles, I think one would have helped with some of that employee management from day one. And it would have
Hmm.
helped maybe even transition faster to the industry that we're serving now. I thought I could do a lot of it myself. I've got the master's degree in mechanical engineering. I've got the PE. I've got an MBA. So I was like, I've got all the pieces of paper that tell me I should be able to do this. And I do feel very comfortable about running a business, but
Hmm.
starting a business, that's I didn't specialize in entrepreneurship in my MBA. It was more
Hmm.
operational management.
Hmm.
So bringing on someone earlier on, I think would have helped some wrinkles with, and it's all the little stuff too. It's like Could we have brought on a better accounting software earlier on? Yeah, sure. And those
Mm-hmm.
things cost money. So that's hard as a startup. It's like, well, where do you spend your money? But I didn't have any guidance for that. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'm going to figure this out. And it worked. There were some road bumps, but I think bringing someone early on who's helped other companies start business, really just helping talk through in this
Mm-hmm.
first really 12 months, 18 months. That's when most companies fails in the first 2 years.
Yep.
I don't think that companies fail in those first 2 years because they have bad business models.
Mm-hmm.
I think they fail because they either either don't know or refuse to execute the ancillary business activities they're required to run a business.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a great engineer. That doesn't mean you're going to be a great business owner because it's more than just about engineering. You can be
Mm-hmm.
a great chef. Probably shouldn't go start a restaurant. You can
Mm-hmm.
cook, but you can't run a restaurant, can't run a
Mm-hmm.
business. Not saying you
Mm-hmm.
can't, but there's a lot more that goes into starting and running a business than just the technical craft. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think the businesses fail is because it's just too much for one person to do based solely on their craft.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be kind of my advice is if you're looking to start a business, branch out on your own, you can be the world's greatest at whatever your craft is,
Mm-hmm.
but you need some help for all the ancillary items because those are where businesses are going to fail. It's, well, how do we price these services? I can execute an engineering project, but how do I price it in the market? How do
Mm-hmm.
I write my terms and conditions so that I
Mm-hmm.
actually get paid? Because you can
Mm-hmm.
send an invoice for everything, and that
Mm-hmm.
looks great on an accrual basis on a
Yep.
P&L. But what does that
Yep.
cash basis look like? Are you actually
Yep.
getting paid, or do you have 6 months of back due invoices that aren't allowing
Mm-hmm.
you to then pay other bills in your company? And do you have any
Mm-hmm.
means of recouping that? That was a
Mm-hmm.
struggle. We still struggle with that today.
Mm-hmm.
An accrual basis looks phenomenal. On a cash basis is less. It's still good. Like we're obviously still growing and paying employees and things like that.
Yep.
But
Yep.
that's a big piece that people don't think about is you can invoice, but just because you invoice doesn't mean you get paid. So do
Mm-hmm.
you have proper processes and channels set up to ensure that you get paid? Again, businesses fail, financially, and it's generally not because you can't execute the work. It's either because you can't find work or you don't get paid for it. The
Mm-hmm.
execution piece is
Cash flow. Yep.
critical, but that's the part that everyone has control over. I
Mm-hmm.
can control whether or not I get a project out, but I can't
Mm-hmm.
control the projects that come in, and I can't control getting paid. And
Mm-hmm.
those are
Mm-hmm.
that's ultimately at the end of the day a bigger piece than just getting engineering drawings out.
Awesome. Yeah, I could agree, like definitely agree with that. There's this one part that you're talking about that is huge. And I think you were bringing this up a little bit earlier was like working in the business and working on the business are two separate things.
They are.
So it's yeah, you mentioned that a great point on that. Two more questions for you, Dan. Um, Before we finish this episode, looking ahead, what are the big goals for the next 12 months for both Ultimus Engineering and in your life?
Yeah, great questions. For Ultimus, a big push for us is how do we get further up the food chain? A lot of our projects are with the general contractors, a decent number with architects. This is largely focused on the aquatics engineering division, where a lot of our projects even come through the pool contractor who's a sub of the GC.
Yep,
But I think it's true across the board. How do we get better exposure up the food chain with the
yep,
GCs, with the
yep,
architects, even with the developer? So we can get specified early on in projects. And so it doesn't matter who that developer hires as the architect, because all architects
yep,
have their own engineering partners. But if we can make relationships with the developers, with the project owners, they say, okay, well, architect, I'm going to hire you, but I already have my engineer I want you to work with because we can work with
hmm
anybody.
hmm
I'm not picky about who my architect is.
yep,
We need information from them, and as we build better relationships, they know what information to give to us. But
hmm
that's a big push for us in 26 and on is how do we work further up the food chain? And then personally, it's finding ways for that balance of how do
balance.
I how do I find ways to spend more time with my family? How do
Hmm
I maybe spend more money on the company to bring on talent to help take out some of these extra hats that I have to wear? We
Yep.
recently brought on a full-time business development manager.
hmm
We are helping migrate one of my admins to being like an internal project manager to help with some more follow-up and coordination and
Yep.
timeline. So it's not external, it's not client facing, but it's making sure all the other engineers internally are coordinating with each other as needed.
Yep.
Again, in
Yep.
a hybrid or remote work environment, you've got to send more emails. You've got to have more team meetings. You can't just roll your chair to the other side of the office and ask a
Yep.
question. So helping with that, that's taking a lot of time off or adding time back to me, but taking a lot off my plate where now in the evenings, I'm not having to go back to the computer. I can spend time with my wife, not having to go back and answer emails or do some of that project management
Yep.
stuff. So it's as we continue to grow, as we continue to bring on more employees, take on more projects, I have the ability to spend more resources, which helps other people be more effective. Um,
Mhm.
but then that's also buying more time back for me, where then I can
Buy back your time.
buy
Yep.
back my time and be more with my family.
Mhm. Have you read Dan Martell? Do you know Dan Martell?
I haven't read that one. I know the author, but I haven't read that one.
Oh, okay. I just love like when you said buy back your time, that's important, especially since you do that to spend more time with you and your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and then last question, Dan. What has been one of the biggest challenges you've been navigating in the business lately?
It's definitely operations. We
Hmm.
have a really good sales funnel, and now the full-time business development manager is crushing work. Engineers, especially the types of engineers that I mentioned that we're trying to find, are not easy to come by. It takes a lot of effort, whether it's internal recruitment activities, hire external recruiters to go out and find people, finding that talent that is both technically competent, but also the able to have those communications, be relationally focused, kind of serve as their own project manager. That talent's hard to find.
Hmm.
Well, as we grow on the sales side, bring in more projects, how do we manage that operationally where I may not have enough in-house talent to
Fill it.
execute
Yep.
those projects? I
Hmm.
don't I don't like saying no. I don't like turning down business. Now we will if we absolutely have to. But what I would rather do is go find a 1099 contractor, not overseas, but someone who is again working out of their living room, doing the kind of work for themselves. They're an engineer, or they're an MEP engineer, they're a structural engineer
Hmm.
and subcontracting them, like I mentioned, that first project we ever did, right?
Yep.
So maintaining that business model, and maybe I make a lot lower profit margin on that, but it gets the project done, it keeps the client happy. I make less at the end of the day, and maybe it's a little bit more time even that I have to spend managing that contractor through the process.
Yep.
But we do that to keep the client happy. We do that to maintain the sales momentum. The clients understand, hey, listen, I'm too busy. I don't want to fall flat on my face. I can't take this project. But you can only do that so many times until that client says, well, if you're too busy for me, I appreciate you telling me, but I'm
Hmm.
also going to find a more consistent partner.
Hmm.
And that's difficult. So when people tell me all
Hmm.
the time, "Oh gosh, I'm so busy, I can't take on more work." I have architects that I send referrals to because we get projects from a lot of different sources. And if that architect tells me two, three, four times in a row, "Hey, sorry, I'm too busy, I can't take more work."
Never
Well,
want
I'm
to
gonna,
say that word.
yeah, it's like I
Never.
appreciate that, but it's really hard for me to keep bringing you stuff if you're going to keep turning
Yep.
it down.
Yep.
So that's my standpoint is like, and again, I'm not going to take something if I can't do it. I'm going to be
Hmm.
transparent.
Hmm.
I hate pushing lead times, but if it's a long-standing client, I just have a very candid conversation. I'm like, look, I'm not going to charge you more if I have to find a contractor to do this. I eat that. That's my cost of doing business.
Yep.
Lead times may be a little bit longer. I'm not going to tell you no because I want to support you,
Hmm.
but it's having that conversation. And if it happens once or twice, again, everybody gets that. And most
Hmm.
architects, most developers, most contractors, they have a couple of other engineers that if we can't take up the job, or maybe it's one of their engineers that can't take a job, they're like, hey, Daniel, my other guy I use a lot. I know you've got two or three projects in house from us right now, but can you take one more? My other guy can't pick it up. So I
Hmm.
try to be flexible, but yeah, that's our biggest challenge today is I have three recs open. I would make
Hmm.
three hires today if I could.
Hmm.
And I need to bring those people on so it reduces the stress and reliance of utilizing outside contractors. But it's a challenge to find engineers that fit that cultural mold that that we need to execute our business model and our company culture.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for sharing that, Dan. All right. Before we wrap up, before we wrap up, where can people find you and what are you working on that you want people to know about?
You can find us. We've got a website, ultimusengineering.com or ultimus.engineering. Our developer likes the ultimus.engineering deviation of that. Ultimus is a clever enough name that you don't have to search through lots of pages of Google. That should pop up pretty quick.
Hmm.
We are active on LinkedIn. We
Hmm.
are upgrading our social media presence on both Instagram and I hear even a TikTok is on the way from my executive admin who loves that piece of the social media world. So we're available on a lot of social media sites. Our phone number is listed on our website. We have an info at general mailbox that I personally monitor. So really easy to get a hold of. Like I said, pretty much any available source. A lot of that is available directly on our website. Again, ultimus.engineering. And we also have a really strong presence on LinkedIn. Projects that we're working on, we have a lot of really cool projects. We work out of 22 states currently, licensed
Hmm.
and active projects. Everything from a winery up in the mountains of Pennsylvania to a full-blown rec center indoor water park out in West Texas. So
Hmm.
really cool projects across the board. We like the projects that are fun. Everyone likes to drink wine and go down a water slide. So excited to bring those projects to conclusion here probably in the next couple months.
Cool, cool. Well, Dan, this has been an incredible conversation. Thanks for coming on the show and being so like open and real with us today. The way you think about what you're building is exactly the kind of story other businesses are going to want to hear. So, and other individuals. So, to everyone tuning in, thank you for being here. If this resonated with you, share it with a business owner in your life who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep pushing forward in faith, fitness, family, and mission. Dan, really appreciate you. This is a great one.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.